Climate change and the COVID-19 pandemic have exacerbated the unsustainability and unfairness of our global food system. Russia's military aggression against Ukraine will make things worse, as the two countries are key agricultural players. Together, they provide 12% of the kilocalories traded across the world. The two countries combined account for 1/3 of wheat exports. They are major exporters of other essential products like sunflower oil, corn, and animal feed. Russia is also the first world exporter of fertilizers. First, both countries have practically stopped exporting these essential commodities. Just to be clear, this is not caused by the sanctions imposed on Russia. This is a direct consequence of the war itself. Second, these agricultural products, fertilizers, and energy prices are reaching record levels and may increase further. Finally, other countries like Egypt, Argentina, and Turkey are already imposing some degree of export controls, and more countries may follow. Export bans can cause further market distortions and potentially exacerbate the crisis. As we speak, food supply is not at stake in the European Union. The Common Agricultural Policy, established exactly 60 years ago, has made us a competitive and largely self-sufficient agricultural powerhouse. However, EU agricultural production is largely dependent on imported energy, animal feed, and fertilizers. Around 1/3 of the EU's imported fertilizers come from Russia. In addition, around 30 million people in the European Union are already vulnerable to some forms of food insecurity. This includes low-income households who are affected by the economic crisis due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Pricing crisis may affect them further. Beyond the European Union, the UN estimates that this year up to 18 million people may suffer food shortages in Ukraine alone. In less developed African and Middle Eastern countries, the food crisis will put up to 8 to 11 million of people at severe risk of hunger. It is clear that the EU must support EU farmers and consumers while fulfilling its international responsibilities towards third countries in need. Following the Versailles Declaration that called for an EU action plan to boost global food security, the European Commission swiftly adopted a package of measures. EU farmers will receive more robust support, including from EU subsidies, to face production difficulties. Farming areas will be extended to fill the production gap of essential commodities. The EU will also address strategic dependencies, encouraging EU countries to diversify away from gas, pesticides, or fertilizers, a strategy that has already been promoted by the Green Deal and the Farm to Fork. The EU also confirmed and boosted its major efforts to assist food insecure countries with humanitarian assistance and sustainable agricultural production in third countries, including a €330 million emergency support for Ukraine and a separate support program to preserve agricultural production in the country during and after the war.